Yeah, it's loaded. Also.
All right, it's 8:20. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start by reading the mission statement. Can you bring that up? Naturally, Lewis is championing the growth of the community where people want to live, work, build business, and play. We foster forward thinking and relationship building, connecting people, businesses, partnerships, and resources to effectively and efficiently grow our company. All right. So first we have privilege of the floor. We don't have any guests online or anything, do we? Well, Joe's there, but morning, Joe. All right, so we'll move on to the minutes from the June meeting were sent out, but I should have received them in an email last week. Everyone had a chance. We'll start with the regular meeting. Everyone had a chance to look at those.
They were updated or uploaded late, so you do need. Apologize for you. Well, we can approve them.
Is there any questions or comments regarding the June meeting minutes? Motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Darlene, second. Jessica, any discussion? All in favor? All right, motion carries. Thank you. We also
Am I allowed to vote while I'm online?
Yes.
Okay. I am in favor. If I don't respond, if someone's asking or questioning me, it's, you guys are cutting out just a little bit, so I'm trying my best to hear you, but.
Okay, thank you, Mackenzie. Yeah, because we do have a quorum in the room, so I believe you can participate.
Okay, sounds good.
That's correct, Chair. As long as you have a quorum in the room, the remote member can vote yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. We learned our lesson from last time.
All right. We also had our annual meeting in June, and those minutes were shared as well. Any questions on those? Well, motion to approve. Herb, second. Darlene, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. May's financial reports were also shared. Cheyenne.
Yeah, we've got the May balance sheet first. Notables there being the accounts receivable and accounts payable line. Those are pilot related items, mostly the Community Economic Development Fund, Otis filtering through, and Roaring Brook. So you see those two lines offset each other almost exactly. Our checking and savings line did go down a fair amount. If you remember, number 3, when you wrote the Community Economic Development Program check to the IDA, or wired it to the IDA rather than the LCDC, so it actually just bridged the month that when we had to transfer that money back over to the LCDC. So that looks not great on that month's financials, but it washes overall. Any question on the balance sheet? We'll do the P and L. Yeah, we got some big-ish numbers going on here on the pilot payment pass-through line. That's the Otis pilot. Getting paid out, and you see that zeroes out for the year, which is exactly what we want on that line. Actually, if you jump back up to the top line on interest income and scroll over to where it says 30,000 versus our 6,500 budget. Thanks inflation, I guess, for that. But that's a nice surplus there. You continue down, you see the negative $500,000, that was the community economic development program money. And that's really the only other notable I had. We'll talk about a couple more of them. I threw in year-end financials that aren't audited yet, but I thought we could take a peek at them at the end. Got our expenditures. Yeah, expenditures, just because the finance committee didn't meet to review these. So if you have any questions or comments on that, it's there, mostly pilot items on the bigger items. Questions, yeah. All right, balance sheet. This is the year-on-year comparison. And again, there'll be some slight adjustments, I'm sure, with the audit. But we're in a good position, I guess. If I was reading these like a Fortune 500 company, I'd say our net position increased by almost 2% over the year. But in more layman's terms, we have landed about where we wanted to. Our pilot fees have increased our position, and we haven't had a ton of spending on big projects to offset that. So we're in good shape. So again, this is a P&L for the entire year, entire fiscal year. And the biggest notable, I guess, is the net income line on the bottom. We are going to end up about 93,000 in the black versus a budgeted negative 68,000. And that was mostly based on spending that we thought we might do on big projects. And whenever that doesn't happen, we end up with a little bit of a surplus. So in really good shape, and in between how we're rolling cash flow wise year to year and the balance we have in the bank to draw on, we're well positioned for big projects. Questions on the financials? We only need to approve the May financials. We don't need to approve that end of year stuff.
Bad debt loan.
That bad debt line is, we, each year at the end of the fiscal year, we do a review of all of the loans we have, and we decide how much we want to set aside in case people default on those. And this year, with a couple of the Black Moose loan going away and the skewed loan, all the skewed engagements going away and transitioning to a new brewery, all of those we didn't have to set aside as much. So you see a negative on that line because of that.
Any other questions? So again, we're just looking to approve May's numbers. Thank you, Cheyenne, for the overview of the year. It's good to see that summary. So motion to approve for May. I mean, motion for second. Jessica, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. All right, now I have items for approval.
All right, we have a request from number 3 Wind. And Joe, do you want to get into what this request is and what we're looking to the board to approve?
Certainly happy to. If you go to the last page, I'm sorry, not the last page. It's the it's page A2 of the resolution. Is that available for the board members?
Yeah, we're getting there.
Great.
Rachel, we'll share screen so you can make sure I'm looking at the right thing. But then it's public.
I'm glad you're doing that and not me.
Looks like it's page 11.
So at the bottom, it says A2. Yep, and now just scroll down and it's printed page A2 at the bottom. Yep, perfect. Yep, just keep going. Yep. And there you go, right there. So just by way of background, it's fairly typical to get, I'm sorry, you need to scroll a couple more pages.
It moves the page when you.
There you go. Yep, perfect, right there. So by way of background, it's fairly typical to get what we call in the office here, post-closing requests or post-closing modifications to documents. And you're a corporate body, you act by written request. And one of the things that we always focus on is making sure that you have a file with respect to the action that you're taking. So whenever someone calls us up, a project applicant calls us up and says, hey, we need to do the following, we say, okay, this is a post-closing matter. Please send us a letter explaining what you want us to do. And then we will circle with staff and then circle back with you with any issues. And then assuming that there aren't any issues, we'll take steps to provide for the approval of the request by the IDA board members. So what you have attached to the letter, or I'm sorry, attached to the resolution, excuse me, is a letter from the applicant requesting action by the IDA. And with respect to this particular request, as part of your normal process with any straight lease transaction, the IDA took an interest in real estate with respect to the wind project. And what's going on here is that a portion of that property is not, quote, needed, close quote, for undertaking the project. And that's explained in the first paragraph there. So what the applicant is requesting is that we release that portion of the real estate and modify the underlying IDA straight lease documents to revise the real estate description that is subject to the IDA lease documents, including the pilot. So what's going to happen here is that this property will go back on the tax rolls when they sell it. Actually, when we release it, it'll go back on the tax rolls because they'll own it. It'll go back on the tax rolls and subject to normal tax. And then when they sell it, the entity that that will own it will be obviously subject to real property tax. So this is the request, and conceptually, this takes the form of the application that we get at the original or the initial action with respect to a project. We don't undertake a project without an application. Well, similarly, we don't consider a request without a written request by the project applicant. So then scrolling back up toward the beginning of the document, and why don't we just move up a couple of pages? I have it on my screen. If you go to printed page 3, the first couple of pages is just describes some preliminary action, that it describes the original project, describes that we did the straight lease transaction. And then what we start on page 3 here in the first full whereas paragraph, it says, whereas by request dated June 30, you'll see that refers to the letter that's attached at the end of the resolution with the request. And then we note that pursuant to the IDA lease documents, that's the next paragraph, we can't, they can't on their own modify the real estate description without first coming back to us for approval. And then in section 1 of the resolution, down a couple of paragraphs, we indicate as typical, We always make sure that there isn't an environmental impact with respect to any post-closing action. There's nothing new going on here, so we touch the base with respect to seeker compliance. And then section 2 is really the meat of the resolution, where we approve the action subject to various conditions, including the approval of the documents, compliance with terms and conditions in the underlying straight lease documents. You'll see that 7, actually it's sorry, yep, keep going back. I'm sorry, I threw you off. Go back up to section 2. You see clause B, it's about halfway down in that paragraph. Clause B and clause C, those are protective conditions to make sure that the company is in compliance with the underlying documents when they make the consent or make the request, excuse me. We've been in situations before where a project applicant, has not been responsive with respect to updating insurance and responsive with respect to sending in their employment reports and that sort of thing. And then they ask us for a post-closing action. Well, obviously that's not well received by the IDA. And so what we do is we say, hey, look, you need to clean up this other stuff before we're even going to go there. So we have that language in there just to protect the IDA. Then we have our normal language in D about payment of any administrative fees and counsel's fees. Any fees that we incur in connection with this action is paid for by win number 3. So section 3 and 4 then approve the execution of the documents, and that's really an explanation of what's being presented to the board this morning. And with that, I'll open it up for any comments or questions.
Any questions?
I think this is the house in the corner of Australia.
And they all the same and everything is mentioned. Like there's no outstanding concerns.
Any questions, other questions for Joe or for Brittany or Cheyenne? I think we're good, Joe. So we need a roll call and
Yeah, we just need a motion, a second, and then a roll call.
so a motion to approve the what was the title? Number- Parcel release, number 3, land request for parcel release. Motion made by Darlene. Second, Jessica, any discussion? All right, roll call vote. Herb. Aye. Jessica.
Aye.
Darlene.
Aye.
Mackenzie, are you still there?
Yep, I.
Joe, aye. Goggin, excuse. Tom, excuse. Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Great. I'm just taking notes. Goggin and Tom were absent, right?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, good. Okay, great.
Let us know what we need to do next.
We'll probably have Nadine obviously is handling this directly, so we'll coordinate with you on documents and getting stuff signed by the chair. So you have a nice day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you,
You
thank
too.
you.
Thanks.
All right, moving on, the next is the IDA simple IRA policy revision, so we had some discussion about this in, was it finance?
Finance
Finance
committee
committee.
2 months ago.
And
So we're bringing forward a revised retirement policy, and we're going to have to table the health insurance opt-out policy because it's the wrong document and we can't connect to the VPN to get the right document.
I think we
So,
started.
right, unless we can bring it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll start with the simple IRA policy.
Yeah, so the changes that we discussed in finance committee were, Goggin brought them forth, actually, just to make the retirement policy, that simple IRA policy, a little bit more enticing for potential new hires and. Just to boost the benefit a little bit, it's been, the IDA will match up to 3%, depending on how much an employee is contributing. So if an employee contributes 3% of their income to their simple IRA, the IDA matches 3%. Goggins' suggestion was that we go up to 6% employee match or employee contribution, but above 3%, the IDA would match 50 cents on the dollar, so up to 4.5% match. If the employee was contributing a whole 6% into their simple IRA. And the committee had discussed that a little bit, and that's what we wrote into that final paragraph of the policy. The only other change written into this policy was an update in that kind of middle section where the bullets are to update it. The policy was written in 2020, so it had the 2020 contribution one. Anyway, so I just updated that and do those are documented standards. Any question on that? This is a policy or a plan that all of our employees, all of our full-time employees right now participate in.
You don't follow the same standards as the rest of the county agencies then? Yeah, I know it's separate.
That's what the county is.
That's what I was questioning. I don't think it's that. I think it's lower than that.
I mean, we, just as a bit of history, we really, until Cheyenne was hired, we had not had a full-time employee for quite a while. Because we had contracted with, Eric was a county employee where we contracted for a portion of his time. And Brittany started out as part-time.
Yeah.
And so then when Brittany was made full-time and Cheyenne came on board. And then Eric left and we actually hired a full-time executive director instead of contracting with the county. Was really the first time we tackled any sort of employee benefits. And right from the beginning, the goal has always been to, because we're a small agency with a fixed income, and we've always tried to balance offering as good of a package as we can, and to in some extent acknowledging that, in respect to what we can offer for salaries as well and what the total package value is. And so this is one of the ways we felt like we could be a little bit more flexible and hopefully helpful to make it a more attractive total package. So, this goes along with offering a pretty basic health insurance option, which I don't think anyone participates in right now because you all have other options through spouses and whatnot. And then our paid time off, we've tried to be fairly I don't know what the term is, but try to be fairly flexible and generous with that, and as well as the maternity leave and those sort of policies. So hoping that it makes a total package that is attractive to retain and recruit employees, even if we can't always offer the most competitive salary. So that's really what it's, the discussion has been right from day one when we had to tackle actually putting any sort of policy in place because we didn't have one. So So, yeah, I think Goggin brought this forward, just, you know, we are gonna be hiring again, and we're transitioning we're gonna be transitioning the staff to the new entity, and just trying to stay as competitive as possible, and, you know, in a pretty open job market right now.
And just to quantify it a little bit with current participation, and we're not all contributing 6% of our income right now. But if we all did and got the boosted match, it's about a $3,000 difference per year from the 3% match that I gave previously.
Total?
Yeah.
Or buying?
What's that?
Total.
Total of all of them.
So they just the IDA employees are not eligible for the state retirement system.
No,
I knew they're not for profit would be, but I somehow thought that.
No,
So
IDA opted out of that 10 years ago. There are still many IDAs throughout the state that do get state retirement,
okay. How
like
does this
St. Lawrence County IDA does.
right on state retirement somewhere tier 6 or something? Then it's-
state one, yeah, here's six, I think.
Does this compare with that? This I'm
No. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess it's how you look at it. I mean, generally, the state system is your contributions compared to what you can potentially get back out of it are tend to be better than what any small business can, or what a lot of small businesses can offer in my experience, but yeah, as the state has moved to increase the tiers, that it's not as robust a package as it was.
It's attractive.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of, yeah, I mean, I know that. Yeah, I know it was in the news a while back, Jefferson County. They had some employees that were kind of got a bit of a raw deal, I think, because they basically thought they were eligible for the state retirement system, and then got kicked out of it and kind of lost out and had to like restart a pilot one and stuff. So it's, I think there is some people grandfathered in or something, but it's not something that was even an option when we were working just a few years ago.
latest tier of the retirement system isn't really like a fixed benefit, like the first one where you get,
It's-
it's more like something like this.
I think it's still a fixed benefit, but your terms of how much you have to pay contribute. And the years of service employees have to contribute more throughout their career.
Right.
And they change some of the years of service qualifications.
Was there any discussion about doing increments instead of doing the full 3 or 1.5% at once, doing like 1% or 0.5% this way it work per year?
On years of service, you mean, or
No,
what's that?
just instead of jumping all the way to 6%, which I know is really only 4.5, but at once.
Oh, I see,
Was there a
phasing
way,
in.
yeah, phasing it in, like
Yeah,
1% per year or something.
I mean, I think to Cheyenne's point, if everyone went to the full amount, it would be $3,000 more than what we're doing now, so.
Just don't pay attention. Oh,
Yeah,
It's a really pretty small tweak in the system financially. The system that's already in place, you're just.
tweaking it, right, it would be tweaking. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so, again, Goggin brought this forward and just. We thought this was a reasonable compromise and a little more incentive. For employees to contribute a higher amount as well, right, so.
Do we pay an entity to manage this?
no.
That's on my to-do list, is to try to find a HR consultant to help us in the future.
So we take care of it internally, you're taking care of it.
Oh, when Gaga helped us set it up and we were still key investments.
I mean, we use Rosner Financial.
No.
But we don't have any paid. services, what, like, I can log on and make our contributions for everybody
Right.
once a month and we don't get charged anything.
Okay.
So that part's nice, it's essentially free to the IDA besides the contribution.
I mean, that could, is a point of discussion, do we phase this in over a couple of years, but I guess. To me, some of this is, some of the emphasis here for me has been putting some of this in place going into the transfer to the new entity. I mean, I think we're gonna have a great board of directors for that, and it's gonna be a good, smooth transition, but. Brittany and I talked a while back about just. Trying to get all our ducks in a row and have. Have the policies in place and the packages in place that we feel most comfortable with going into it. Cause then we're not leaving it up to a new group that's just forming to. Have to dive into these discussions, we're giving them, I mean, they still could be tweaked in the future, but we're getting them, going into it at a starting place where hopefully we're all comfortable, so. For me, that's one of the reasons to just do it all as one right now. Is to have it set up and in place before that occurs, hopefully later this year.
Well, I wasn't saying to only do 1% right now. I was wondering if there's any discussion about setting up a policy saying that in 2023 it says, 2024 it says, 2025 it says. So it would still be the full 6%, just implemented a little separately, but no, still doing a policy now for it. I just didn't know if that was separate. Or how it was done.
No, I didn't, the finance committee didn't have any discussion along those lines, but I see what you're saying now.
So we're going to discussion, just so that I understand, so learning from sports, I'll shift. This would no longer become a function of the IDA. Right. Creating policy would become a task, would be worked for
The naturally.
the rest of the sport. Okay.
Yeah, the intent is for the naturally Lewis board to adopt the entire employee handbook with all the policies in it.
So it'll be a cost on the IDA books for a couple more months, and then it'll be handled by naturally Lewis.
And not to get too far into that, but just as, so this new board has been set up. And it was essentially, there'll be representations from the current IDA chamber and LCDC boards. And as well as some new people that have not, or are not currently on the other three boards will make up the new group for naturally Lewis. And some of those are fixed seat, I mean, like the chamber, the IDA will always have a seat at the table with that board, the way it's set up. But that board will also have term limits, which we currently do not have because the IDA could have term limits, but it never has, partially because we're appointed by the Board of Legislators, and so it's been they haven't put any restrictions on it. I mean, technically they could remove someone at any time or add someone, but the new board will have term limits associated with it as well. So I guess I would still, appreciate Jessica's point, but I would still look for a motion to adopt this as written now. And if there's agreement to do so. Anyone wants to make that motion or offer up something?
I'll make a motion if I'm able to do that virtually.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, Mackenzie, you were at that meeting, so if there was anything else you had to offer.
No, I agreed with everything that you said. I think it's important to remember too that 6% does sound like a lot, but since we're only matching 50 cents to the dollar, it is really only 4.5%. And I think there's room for improvement in the future too. Kind of like what Jess said, maybe in increments from here on out, but that can probably just be determined in the future.
Sorry, but this just popped into my head and I don't remember if we discussed it or what, or how it is. Maybe is there any, period of time for being vested in terms of how long you have to work for the?
No.
Okay.
No, you can get into it immediately.
And years of service does not.
Yeah.
In some places, you have to work there for 3 or 5 years before you get to retain the employer's contribution. Right, you still get your own money, obviously, but to retain the employer's contribution.
Yeah, I don't think a simple IRA can work like that.
Okay.
Other types of retirement plans can, but a simple IRA can't be set up. I mean, you could make people wait 3 months before they start on it, but.
And I'm not advocating for that. I was just trying to
Yeah, yeah.
remember if it was in the original policy. Another, something else to consider going forward, I guess, but yeah, right now we've offered it to any full-time employees right from the beginning.
Mhm.
I think the only benefit that's delayed is the PTO. If you wait a few months before that starts accruing.
And that one is based on how long you've worked at the IDA, how much PTO you get.
Does the contribution limit adjust every year to the IRS figure?
Yeah.
So you have to do that, okay.
Yeah, I mean, when we wrote the policy in 2020, we had the 2020 contribution in there, I think just as a example, almost, a lot of our policies are written that way.
Okay.
With an example in there, our health insurance policy was the same way, it showed what the rates were that year.
Right, we just didn't want to tie it to a lower level, I mean, it's increasing, it should, the NSA changes automatically, tracks the IRS. number.
Yeah.
Okay. Required in.
Should we have that language in?
It does say that it changes each year under contributions of employees and employers, right before the bullet.
I don't know.
The amount that you suggested that it would increase that 3,000 is based on how many employees.
3.
That's what I thought. But we have one.
So yeah, I mean, as we bring, as Kaylee becomes full-time, if she elects to start contributing, then that will change.
And then a new employee.
Yeah,
But those would change, like that's gonna change their total amount.
Right, that's what I'm asking.
you're right, though. It is based on 3, the difference between, as we bring people on, the difference between existing policy and updated policy will be.
The new employee in Kristen will come on when it gets adopted under national laws. So for now, it's just 4.
Sorry to interrupt everyone, but I did just get to my meeting, so I have to log off.
Thank you. Mackenzie.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
I guess we'll have to redo that.
Because she just.
See if that really is up.
You made the motion.
Yeah, well, we can,
Can we table it until next month, or is it?
No, we still have four.
Or,
Oh,
Yeah.
what is
okay.
needed in motion.
No, you don't need a motion.
Oh, she, even though she won't be there to vote, she can still
Yeah,
make.
vote on it, it's not covered. You made the motion. but-
Okay.
So,
Okay.
is there a second?
No, we haven't, guys, I just didn't know since she wasn't gonna be there to
She was
vote. on it.
okay, she was here, and
Yeah,
the
okay.
motion's okay.
So the motion stands made by Mackenzie to adopt this policy. Do we have a second? Does someone want to offer something?
I would make a motion to do the increments or table it until everyone's here, but I don't know if everyone will be here next month either.
Right. Are we gonna have a finance committee meeting?
Yeah, we need to schedule one. So we can revise, let's revise it with payments and
The, yeah, if we're gonna have a finance committee meeting again before the next,
yeah.
um,
This
yeah,
one,
maybe,
okay.
maybe we take that consideration back to the finance committee, because since the finance committee did recommend this, so.
well, I think that, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So if you can send any input, either try to attend the finance committee meeting or send any other input when the date gets announced for that. It can go back there and then, with everyone's input, come back next month. Did we make any progress on the lower table and that? Any progress on the health insurance?
Well, the VPN won't connect. to the
Okay.
upload, correct one.
So the changes we'll be presenting to the health insurance is. No changes really to the actual health insurance. But the discussion at finance was to add in like a health and wellness stipend, so. Taking that total amount of the health insurance opt-out. Plus. A health and wellness stipend, which is equaling about $1,300 total based on. The increases in health insurance. So just divvying that up between the health insurance opt-out and the health and wellness stipend. And including that as a benefit.
Right, the discussion being that the health insurance opt-out. That goes into an HRA program. Tying that to the health insurance rates. So that it adjusts to that rate. Which is complicated because we don't currently have anybody on health insurance, so we don't have a number really. So, the way we've written it is just to revisit it every couple of years to make sure that it's kind of in alignment still with current rates. But not make it a percentage because that's just getting not manageable. And then taking into account that we were kind of portioning some of it over into the, health and wellness stipend, which is if the employees can claim a certain amount of health and wellness type activities that aren't covered by insurance and things like that as expenses.
With it, yeah, in the original, kind of this going back to when we first had to develop the health insurance policy was the idea that. You know, if you may be on your spouse's plan or something, but if it's a high deductible plan. We could still contribute something to that, that would be before taxes that. Could then be used to help cover your deductible and improve medical. For the plan you are on. But it was still, it was a way we could offer a benefit and help. With deductibles, but still cost us a lot less than actually having the employee on the plan.
My girls, I think between they have a gold plan between dental, vision and medical, I think I'm paying $900 a month for each one of them. So if you're talking 1,300, that's not even a drop in the bucket compared to what they're really saving.
Yeah, the 1,300 works out to roughly 18% of what we would be paying insurance.
And then the discussion that came back for updating it was. depending on what plan you're on, whether you need that full amount in the HRA to cover your deductible. Or like we know other companies have done, could a portion of it go into, like other health and wellness activities instead of just being pigeonholed for, covering deductible and stuff, so.
Oh, yeah, the health and wellness segment will be offered to everyone, even if you're on IDA insurance. That's fine.
So currently we don't have the health and wellness
No.
piece.
But-
So that's what this is.
But we're not really, well, we are we're tying it to the cost of the insurance instead of it in the current policy, it's just a fixed amount. So going forward, it will go up incrementally if insurance cost goes up. So we are increasing it in that respect, but we're not really increasing the total pot of money. We're just slicing it into two titles instead of all being under one.
Right,
So-
the nice thing about the HRA is that it does roll over, so it accumulates if you don't use it, so someday when you need braces or whatever. Well, we're sure to liquidate that in a hurry. But we kept running into things that we couldn't claim under that we would have liked to, like vitamins or like proactive things. Gym memberships and stuff, so that was kind of the ask from our
I'm
end.
confused. So we do have an HRA, right?
We have an HRA, we don't have the health and wellness piece. And that's the piece I'm talking about, we're doing the
And what's
more,
opt out, where does that fall in? Is opt out totally separate?
so,
No.
so the opt-out is the HRA.
Is the HRA?
Yeah.
I'm not an HR person,
No,
so
no.
FSA, similar, I mean, that's what they. where you-
HSA, health
HSA.
savings account,
Health savings account, but then there's an FSA too, we don't offer that.
No.
Which could be childcare or things like that.
we don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's. What? It was part of the discussion was around. Having it tied to versus, because there was talk at one point about just. Cutting a check to anyone that opted out of the insurance, but then that's subject to taxes and there was a feeling. With the board at the time, and I personally feel that this way I think to me, it's responsible to have it tied to, still tied to health insurance and health and wellness and not just be a bonus essentially, because we are offering it as a benefit, instead of, versus just a salary or bonus thing, so similar to the match on the IRA, it's a benefit and trying to incentivize savings and planning and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's
Not
fine.
Not that any of you guys are, not that that's a champ. But I mean, that's where some of that comes from, that in some businesses, right, is trying to incentivize their employees to actually plan and save, so.
So what we'll do, we'll get the finance committee meeting scheduled, we'll make revisions. And if there's any other revisions that need to be made to the health insurance policy, we'll make sure that, we'll send them to the whole board, but then we'll review them at finance and then hopefully get them on the docket for the next meeting.
Sounds good, thanks everyone for the good discussion on that.
Thank you.
So moving on to the director's report.
Yes, so a few highlights from June. We posted under the Jeff Lewis Manufacturing Alliance. This is a partnership we have with Jefferson County Economic Development to bring manufacturers together. We hosted a facility tour and roundtable with Senator Mark Walsick, and this was open to all manufacturers in the region. And We hosted it at Otis. It was a really great event. It was a great opportunity to tour, to give other manufacturers an opportunity to tour a different facility, but also sit down with the senator and just talk about some of the issues and opportunities in manufacturing. So that was a great event and something that we're going to continue to do in partnership with Jefferson County into the future. Just want to note that second place Beard Co. has signed all documents, and Next Level Excavation has completed all of their work at Trinity Ave. And Troy has started doing work on the brewery.
Yep.
So he is moving forward. The property looks much nicer, cleaned up. Haven't gotten any calls or complaints from the community in the past few months. So that project is moving forward.
And there's an excavator at the, on the corner property that the county's taking down, so
Oh, there?
that's gonna come down soon.
Cool.
Enough about that. Okay, fine.
Yeah, we can mention, I think. This month, we are also launching the community economic development programs through the LCDC. So we're putting out the press release for all of the programs today, right? Yep. Today. And so this month, we're launching the Small Things Big Impacts Grant Fund and the Community Connections Grant Fund. So the Small Things Big Impact is got up to $1,000 grants for businesses that want to increase their visibility. Could be marketing, signage, digital, going mobile, like farmers markets and, trailers and things like that. The Community Connections Fund, that's for nonprofit schools or municipalities, a project that will connect the community, kind of leaving it up very open-ended and leaving it up to the entities to submit good projects. We're going to get through those two programs, and then in September we'll launch the Building Business Fund, which is minimum $10,000 grants for projects that will grow the business, their businesses. So we're working on all of those programs, the marketing, the application portals, the webinars, all of the things. It's a lot of work to get set up, but we're excited to launch those programs. And I do just want to note that last night at the Board of Legislator meeting, Cheyenne, Kristen, Cassandra Buell, and myself were recognized by the board for all the work that we're doing. And, Larry highlighted that the county has invested a lot of money into programs and economic development in general, and the work of the entire team. It's really showing in the community. We're beautifying downtowns, we're getting vacant buildings, usable. We're helping entrepreneurs, we're filling downtown spaces. So just want to recognize the entire team for all of their work and everything that we're doing, because it's definitely a team effort. It was great to be recognized by the board. You want to talk about Trinity Ave a little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit on kind of.
Before, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make sure everyone, as you watch the other programs, just to make sure that we're all refresher that there's a separate committee that helped define the guidelines for those three programs, and will be the ones doing the review of the applications when they do come in. So that committee was established and has met a few times. And that's again housed through the LCDC, that fund. And the other thing that I just want to encourage you as you're out in the communities is the section for the nonprofits. Part of that came from the negotiations around setting up this fund versus all the money going into a pilot. And the idea, part of the idea being that the pilot only goes to those certain municipalities and, you know, effectively gets treated as tax money that has, there's limitations on what you can use it for. So with this portion of the funding going into that community fund, the idea was that this is an opportunity for schools, municipalities, other nonprofits to be able to access this money in a way that could be used more creatively for a community benefit project than just what they could use it if it had come to them in pilot money. Plus, it could be used by school districts or municipalities outside the actual footprint of the project in the county. So I just wanted to bring that up to as a refresher, and as you're talking to people in your communities and schools and stuff, that there's an opportunity there, and making that money more accessible across the county. Sorry.
No. Alright, so on the Trinity Ave thing, I was showing our intern Emma around to some of the properties that we own or participate in some regard, and where the brewery sits, if you can envision where the brewery is, and then it's sandwiched by railroad parcels. And on one end, that residential building that the county is going to be taking down because it's condemned is there. Across the street, there's the food pantry, really large building that's kind of been on our radar for some time, as well as an old brick building and a lot of green space over there. And then the whole Forest Ave corridor where the co-op is going to be moving out of in the next couple of years. And then on the other side of Shady, the co-op, the hardware store, as well as we've known for a long time that Browns would like to transition their business into new ownership as they look to retire. And this is where this process isn't going to cost a lot of money. So our projects costs or economic development costs on this could be very low. The cost of a project like this, and I'll get to what the project is more people time, human resources, and just our like passion for things like this. So my thought was, there's so many moving parts here. And we've heard like rumors that the co-op would sell off that whole Forest Ave part for storage facility or whatever, and that's fine, but it could be so much better. So the thought was, let's make this, there's so many moving parts, there's so many potential moving parts, let's find a vision for this whole little neighborhood and of what it could be, and let's start taking steps to make it that. And involve the community and what that looks like, and especially the commercial property owners and what their willingness is. So that's what we did. We're partnering with planning. Kaylee's doing a whole bunch of work on it to look at the properties and what they can be, working with zoning as well, because some of them are zoned kind of goofy because of their historic use. And get the community or that neighborhood together to let's think about what this can be, and then what can we do to get it there. Did
Yeah.
I capture that?
We, so we're working with Labella, they're a consulting agency to help lead the process. And in that scope of work, like this is a section of it, but also this is gonna be a big part of the Village of Belleville DRI application, the fourth application that we will assist in submitting this year. So Labella is helping us with this, and it's us, county planning, and the Village of Belleville that will be paying for that consultant. So we'll be contributing 5,000 towards this initiative, and we'll have some great ideas and some nice renderings. And just like we can take those opportunities to a developer and say, there you go, here's an opportunity. The zoning has been changed, the village is on board, the residents, the neighboring residents are on board. So it's a really great initiative and really creative.
if it is like a small town version of, you know, industrial redevelopment, right? Like cities that take an industrial sections and turn them into apartments and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
this is kind of our industrial corridor tied to the old railbed, right? And with the feed mills and lumber yard and stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
Kind of our small town version of going from old industry to with the,
The hood.
yeah, to a kind of a tourism, population, community redevelopment.
Yeah, and that was a piece of it, is there was a microgreens, hydroponic microgreens grower who wanted to co-locate with on the brewery property. And zoning didn't allow it. And so, because you need at least 2 acres for ag. And so we started looking through, okay, what would we have to do to make this okay? Because obviously this is an okay use for. So, and they were really great in supplying what would need to change. So that, I mean. Things kind of steamroll, so hopefully it's, I'm super excited about that project.
Was Labella giving you some zoning amendment ideas, or is that coming from the group itself, or where's, like?
I think that'll kind of stem or steamroll once we have the vision set. Okay, what do we need to do to zoning to make that allowable?
Any other questions?
Thanks for the updates. Any correspondence?
No.
Right, so. So, moving on to new business, the DBA program.
So we thought it would be a great opportunity to give an update to this board on the DBA entrepreneurship program, the investment the IDA has made, the economic impact from the program, and our plan moving forward, because it has evolved and is evolving like everything else in our organization. Let's speak next.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good time to give some more updates on the DBA program, some successes, and then where we're headed. So if you can remember back to June of 2021, we allocated $30,000 of IDA funds towards the program to create the program, really, but to also attach some incentives to it to help entrepreneurs and small businesses grow. And that incentive was a match. We provided 70%, 75% discounts for entrepreneurs and small businesses to take advantage of local consultants. And then we got the Project Seed funding back in 2022 in June. And we really kind of shifted that from that $30,000 pot to the $15,000 to spend that first. And that was a grant through National Grid to provide technical assistance, which is exactly what we were doing. And to also partner with the Chamber of Commerce to market these services to members. And also we tied the Leadership Academy to that. We discounted membership for anybody in the DBA program 50%. So that helped with membership as well. So all in all, we've spent $26,500. And that went to 10 local consultants and partners to provide technical assistance and business services. And we did a little bit of math and kind of mapped where all that money went out to. And the economic ripple effect from that is over $80,000, and that's just what we could calculate. And a couple examples of that are, so we partnered with the Adirondack Economic Development Corporation, and they provide business planning services, but they also have loan funds available. So we sent a handful of businesses their way that were in need of funding. Because we usually send people to the Small Business Development Center for business planning, but this is a great partnership if they're needing just a small bit of loan funds to get started. And one being Crave Diner, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we invested $2,000 in AEDC to help with that, the business planning. And in return, they got a $50,000 loan. So those $2,000 escalated to $50,000. And then on a more local scale, Kelsey Blackwell, for example, she received, so we paid her around $4,000 of the 75% match, and she directly got over $5,000 from the technical assistance, but she's also working with 4 out of the 10 businesses that we sent her way with ongoing services. So again, that's the ripple effect is still ongoing, which is really the whole point of this program, is to connect entrepreneurs with local services. And it's happening naturally now. Go ahead to the next slide, Julie. I'll just talk about a few other success stories. So Crave, I'll show you the video in a minute. Some of you may or may not have seen it yet, but just to give a little bit of background, we connected them with the SBDC and AEDC for business planning. We worked with them through the CBIT program to transition and buy out Gary's restaurant. And this was a 1.5 year process. Ashley first came to us looking for a location for her bakery, and she had a vision to start a restaurant. So we kind of brainstormed a few locations. We talked about the place next to Cafe Z. We talked about where the Board of Elections is held right now. And then Gary's kind of came up as this turnkey operation that we knew she was looking to sell. All the equipment is there. She obviously had her own vision, but it was kind of the perfect timing. And then she applied for the Launch Lewis County grant, which she received $20,000 from. And we helped her with a logo design. So in return, the successes, she officially transitioned in October. Like I said, she received a $50,000 loan from the AEDC for working capital. And all jobs were retained, and she is continuing to grow, which is really awesome. Go ahead, Kaylee, I'll show you the video. Turn it up a little bit. So Olivia Grant out of Watertown helped us with this video, and the CBIT program actually helped pay for it. So
You go to the YouTube channel.
it's a good way to promote the story in a couple of minutes.
Is that her mom?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because we're using the speaker for the meeting.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I can send it to you guys so you can watch it, but it's on our YouTube channel. Ashley was reluctant to participate and did not want to participate, but we did get her on camera in one of the shots, so it was pretty cool. And Ashley is still learning the business, but with support from the staff, I think she's doing very well. You'll notice she has a new sign up downtown. She's doing great. Go ahead to the next slide. Another success story, this is a local coffee roaster, which you may or may have not seen in Crumbs. She's selling her coffee there. Woman-owned business. She's actually from Columbia. Her husband is from here. So we sent them initially to the SBDC for business planning. They have a beautiful website that was built through myny.biz, which we assisted with a stipend. They did a little crowdfunding initially to get off the ground, which was a creative way to kind of kickstart. So we helped guide them to North Country CPAs for tax advice on that. And they're working through some MWBE questions with our partners at Ignite U, which is formerly our connection through the North Country PTAC, Nana Doyle, who comes to our office monthly. And a really cool connection is they are actually working with Tug Hill Artisan Roasters on a collaboration where they have, it's a tourism experience where you can go in and roast your own bag of coffee and then go over to Tug Hill Artisan Roasters and learn how to make the perfect cup of coffee and the science behind it. So a really cool collaboration. It goes back to collaboration over competition, which the first time I met with Connor and Iris, they were kind of hesitant to reach out to Scott, but knowing Scott, he's open to talking to anybody, and they're doing totally different things as far as roasting is concerned. So they've built several wholesale accounts in the last couple of months, and recently became a Naturally Lewis member. So they're on their way to creating more connections within the community.
What's the actual name?
Asahar Roast House. Asahar is the blooming of the coffee flower. The name of the coffee flower is where it comes from.
And then they're inside of Crane?
They, it's a wholesale account through
Oh,
Crate, or
So
through
they don't
through
have
Crumbs,
like that.
sorry. Their location is in Watson at their house. They have a small, like North Country storage barn. But
They're not
they-
selling retail.
They are wholesale through different places. So they're in the mall, they're at Crumbs, they're at Farmhouse Boutique. And they are actually going to be at the Lewis County Fair as well. And they're doing the farmers market too. So they're slowly getting out in the community. Over Christmas is when they did that Kickstarter campaign to kind of get the initial crowdfunding. They needed a small piece of equipment, but now they're growing sustainably, I will say. They're not trying to get big fast. Their roaster is probably this big. So can roast like a couple bags at a time. Go ahead. And last one, so I actually didn't work very closely with this small business. Brittany stepped in while I was out on maternity leave and helped these two ladies. But you may have seen them at Food Truck Fridays last Friday, and they just recently started at the Watertown Farmers Market. They work with the Small Business Development Center. They have a website through myny.biz, a new logo design through Rags and Rivers. And Brittany helped them with just some connections that they needed for licenses as well. Anything to add, Brittany, for them? Really cool.
Just a cool business. They came to us and they already had started construction of this. They were well on their way to being operational, but it was just some of these local connections, like the permitting and just, connections with other businesses that they really needed to feel confident to launch. They are right now just doing mocktails and smoothies and specialty lemonades and iced teas. They are working on their catering permit to become an actual mobile bar, but it's very complicated in New York to do that, because attorneys probably know. So they're working on it, but they're long, I think people really enjoy it. Their peach tea is amazing. If you ever, see them out. But it's great to have them involved in some of our events too.
And I'll add that Caitlin Smith, who actually works at the county, has a beverage trailer as well. And there's a cattle bar, a cattle trailer similar to this. They are actually doing their first event this weekend as well. So there's some other similar businesses popping up, but they all kind of have their niche. And it's nice to see some creative businesses coming out of the woodwork. So what's next? We really established that the DBA program is really just what we do as Naturally Lewis. So it's not really a program anymore. It's more, we are entrepreneur friendly. We are focused on connecting businesses with the right resources. And the incentives piece will really move under our membership umbrella. And this is really to make the program more sustainable for us, so that we don't have to continue to rely on grant funding to make it work. And in talking to consultants in small businesses, they really weren't looking for that discount when they came to us. They're more looking for the connections, because they already have the idea or the small business. They really just need the help of what's out there to make the next step. So under the Naturally Lewis membership, we will offer source local incentives under our second tier membership package. So if you invest $300 to become a member, we'll give you a $200 stipend to use with any local consultants under that umbrella. So that will continue to be any technical assistance like Kelsey Blackwell, logo design, websites, branding, leadership development, all of those things will just move under the membership structure. And we will be implementing some new events to continue to build on this community. We really have seen this as an area of growth in this program, as a way to connect these individuals so that they can continue to collaborate. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So this is starting in July. We'll have our first empowered event is what we're calling it. And it's really different topics for education and training. So July will be 5 basics of financial literacy that is every small business owner needs. That will be sponsored. It's all sponsored by Northern, but they are actually hosting that event. In August, it will be 4 steps for turning your website into your most effective employee. And then in September, 5 write-offs for your small business tax strategy. So we're trying to make it easy for the business to internalize, making it a numerical tip. So 5 tips for this, 4 tips, so that they can easily digest the information. Make it a 1-pager, and it's an hour-long commitment. So we're excited to get these started, starting with once a month, and we'll see how the turnout is for those. Any questions for me?
I just want to say thanks to the IBA board for initially investing in this program, because it's really what has spearheaded this, creating this entrepreneur culture in Lewis County. And like Jenna said, the businesses, they don't expect the discounts, but it was a great way to put our name out there that we are entrepreneur friendly, and we continue to be, and it helped us to streamline what our process is when we're helping businesses. So. Thank you guys for that investment.
Thank you for all of this. All right, any questions on that?
I just have one comment, I guess, not, I mean, the traveling sectors. Maybe have an idea that Lefferts Golf Course, they don't have they don't have a place that sells anything anymore, so. They've been talking about asking food trucks to come up and that kind of thing. We are, Monday night is their busiest night of the league.
Yeah.
And if they could, let's have like a traveling sisters there, I mean, they make their connection.
Yeah,
there to help.
a great idea.
They could sell a lot of, well, once they get their liquor license, they can sell a lot. But if they just selling, because when it's been 90 degrees and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Right.
Kevin, what night do you golf?
Pardon?
What night do you golf?
Monday night. It's kind of, it used to be that there was a pro shop there, not really.
Right.
But across the street was Sabatini House and they would sell beer and they did pretty good business out of it. Now, I think it's really hurt their business that there isn't. It used to be you'd stay after for a couple of cocktails and.
Right.
And try to find somebody to drive around.
Right.
It's supposed to be fun.
I'll make the connection. Thank you.
Yeah, good Legends, the golf course,
Yep.
and they have talked about doing some things with food trucks as well, but I think the traveling sisters is a perfect fit for Monday nights.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Legends needs some help down there too, like, I don't know if you guys are reaching out to them or talking to them at all.
I think I tried at one point, but I don't know that I ever heard back. If you see them, tell them to reach out to us.
Okay. Okay, they're,
It's usually if they're willing to accept the help, we're there for them. That's part of the problem is getting people that want the help. But we're more than happy to be
okay,
that person.
I'll do that.
Right. So just out of respect for your time, have a quick update on how things are going and then. Here's something.
So just want to provide an update on the Naturally Lewis transition and timeline. We have a timeline in place for when we will launch this new organization. We're still waiting on the IRS for the charitable organization paperwork, but I've been told by CPAs and attorneys that we can still operate without those papers in place. So we're moving forward. So the new Naturally Lewis board, in August, we're having a pre-launch board meeting, which is really just going to set the stage for what this board is going to be talking about and leading. It's not IDA things, it's not LCDC things, it's big picture economic development things. So we have to kind of set the stage with that board that it's high level. You're talking high level, we don't need to get into the weeds of operational things. So we'll be setting the stage in August for that. In September, we're gonna have our first official Naturally Lewis board meeting. That's where all of the approvals are gonna come into place. So approving the staff service contracts, approving the employee handbook, approving assigning staff. I don't know, we have a list this long of just the little things that we need to be working on and approving at that board meeting. With the intent that by October 1st, that's when staff will be transitioned to the new organization. So in the meantime, at our finance committee that we will be having this month, we're gonna really go through that staff service contract with a fine-tooth comb so that we can, the IDA board can approve it at our September board. And with that, we will be looking at a 2023 contract and a 2024 contract and approving those at the same time. So that is the timeline. Again, something could come up that here's us off that timeline, so we just need to continue to be nimble and flexible. And this is the part where things get a little bit messy before they get clear. But, I hate to keep kicking the can down the road because it will just provide more clarity for the entire team as to what their roles are. We're just in this weird transition mode right now. So that's the timeline, the updates.
Questions?
That's what we have. Do want to introduce our intern, Emma. Hi. So this is Emma Denning. She's our economic development intern for the summer. She is majoring in social work at SUNY Plattsburgh, right, Emma? Yep, college. So a very different perspective. Having someone who is focused on human services and economic development, but has been very helpful. As part of her internship, you know, the first few weeks were really her job shadowing all of us to learn about everything that we do. So it was information overload for the first few weeks. And then she had to come up with a project that she will be completing by the end of the summer. And Emma, do you want to talk, like, just very briefly talk about what that project is?
So the tagline for it, we're calling it making this building inclusivity in business. The tagline being allowing our services to be maximized by ordinary people. So regardless of when people hear inclusivity, they have to think of like gender, race, and that will be encompassed, but more so socioeconomic status. So can you use our services if you don't have an MBA? Like, can you understand what we're talking about if you don't have a college degree? So looking at the language that we're using and talking with Brittany yesterday, also looking at, are we doing the work for the people or are we empowering them to make the decisions for themselves? So just looking at how we're conveying ourselves to the community and then how they're seeing us and if that's matching what we think they see when they see us.
It's very interesting and something that's been very much needed. Because we know what we're talking about, but like to the public, it may be a different language to them. And Jen and I saw that with our Launch LC grant. We tried to make it very simple from the first round of those funds. But we realized we need to make it simpler for people to understand, because it's sometimes hard to understand if you're not in it. So Emma's taking a hard look at everything we offer and the messaging around it, and does it make sense to ordinary person. So we love having her and she's doing great work and happy to have her on board.
All right, anything else? Not taking motion to adjourn. Jessica, second by Darlene, all in favor. Meeting adjourned.